Since 1995, all of the entries to the Congressional Record have been digitized and are pretty readily available on congress.gov. However, if you want to interact with any larger amounts of data or collect any of that in larger scale, you're going to have to interact with an API. The Sunlight Foundation has made one that's readily available, and if you don't already have an API key, which would allow you to access that API, you can get one very easily at sunlightfoundation.com/API, selecting Get a Key, and then it should arrive at your email inbox in a matter of minutes. Once you do get that key, you can import two modules into your Python interface that allow you to access that API point. The endpoint for the Capital Words project, which collects all the text from the Congressional Record along with all the metadata around it, is right here. I've already got it written out for you. And then you would simply add your API key to the end of this, which allows you this kind of access. However, right now we don't have any search parameters in this call to the API, so I'm going to show you really quickly a couple options for this one. The Sunlight Foundation has made a list available of the different terms you can use as parameters in their API call and exactly the rules required. So if you have a party that you want to search within, you have to use R, D, or I. You can't say Republican, Democrat, Independent. You have to follow the text pretty precisely. Today I'm just going to use title, which searches the text within the title of an entry to the record, and also the start date, because we're going to be looking for entries to the date to the Congressional Record following the death of Justice Scalia that have to do with the Supreme Court vacancy. So I'm going to add my parameters in between additional ampersands in this original key. So I have my first ampersand, and I'm going to say start underscore date, just like how they had said, equals, and the year format is also very particular, so it's year, month, date. Another ampersand for my second parameter, title. And because my title search term is multi-word, I need to add plus signs between each word so that the API knows to read it as one solid term. Supreme plus court plus vacancy. And final ampersand for my API key. I'm going to turn this into a variable so that I can call it later on in my code, and use that first requests module from up here to let Python know that that's what I am doing. And the call you would use is get. You need your call in between apostrophes. I'm going to leave my API key out right now, but it should go right there, just for a little discretionary sake. I always like to recommend printing a status code, just so that if something does come back faulty with your results, you can see if it's because of your code itself or because something's going on with the API call. Anything that isn't 200 at this point in your response status code is something to do with your code and not with the API itself. I'm going to make a second variable, and this one will be for all the content within the call. So this first variable is calling it. The second variable is returning the text. I'm going to use the JSON module here, which tells Python to read it back to me in the JSON format. I'm going to request just the text from that original variable response. From here, I can just print it, and I will get a printed result that says, hopefully, 200 for my response status code, and then all the text and metadata surrounding anything from February 13th onward that has Supreme Court vacancy in the title. Running it pulls back something like this, and you can see that it's got all the metadata extremely parsable in between dictionaries and lists. I've got my 200, which shows the API call went through, and I have 132 results in the last couple of months then. So that's everything you need to know just to connect to the API. If you have any other parameters you want to add, you can get the full list here. And happy hunting through the congressional record. There's some really interesting stuff there, and I hope you've got some interesting plans for it. Good luck.